In this lecture, we will discuss the rate of depletion of a drug or one of its marker residues from the target tissue, or what we call the tissue half-life. The relationship between the tissue half-life and the plasma half-life of the marker residue is dependent on the drug's distribution pattern. When we consider drug residues, we are interested in the slope of the concentration time curve that represents the compartment from which the compound depletes the slowest from the body. But the challenge when dealing with drug residues is that we are often looking at total body levels that are so low that plasma concentrations are undetectable by our analytical techniques. To illustrate this with an example, let's look at a drug with a distribution pattern that should follow a three-compartment model. Although the plasma concentrations initially deplete quite rapidly, the slope of the terminal phase of the drug concentration time profile in the body is quite flat at the end, indicating a long terminal half-life. However, due to the concentration falling below the level of detection of the analytical method in the plasma, we do not pick up this terminal phase and may erroneously calculate a shorter terminal half-life based on plasma data that fit a two-compartment model, for example. The only way we can pick up that slope of the terminal phase is to actually measure concentrations in the tissues themselves and calculate a tissue half-life, specifically in the target tissues, which would be, by definition, those tissues that constitute the compartment from which the drug depletes the slowest. Here we see the consequence of erroneously assuming a terminal half-life from a two-compartment model based on measurable plasma concentrations. And as you can see, the withdrawal time is estimated to be much shorter than what it should be. And even worse, look what would happen if we extrapolated from a one-compartment model. Although not all drugs have distribution patterns that result in slower depletion in some tissues compared to others, we always need to keep in mind that sometimes the rate of marker residue depletion from the target tissue, which is always the slowest depleting tissue, can only be determined by measuring how concentrations in the target tissue change over time, and cannot be inferred from the terminal slope of the plasma concentration data because the concentrations are too low in the plasma to detect that phase.